Hi Tobias, thanks for joining me here on this vegan plant-based summit. How are you today?
Hey, Isabella, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's a beautiful day today. So yeah, it's great. It's like 70 something degrees here in California. So all good.
Well, we've got grayness happening every day. We don't have snow like New York, but we have, cold weather. So I'm glad somebody's got some sun. Anyway, Tobias, you are an IFBB Fit Pro, aren't you? You hold one of those badges that are hard to come by. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm an IFBB Pro. I got my pro card in with men's physique. I actually started my first competition way back in 2002. I no longer compete. My last competition was the Puerto Rico Pro back in 2017. But once you have your pro card, you have it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I fell in love with, working out, with bodybuilding, everything at a very young age, right? I've been working out since I was 12 years old. And in 2002, I finally decided, hey, you know what? I just need to take the plunge and do it. I've always, I would read all the magazines and see all, my icons out there, all competing. And I was like, let me just give it a shot. So I did my first competition and I placed second in my first competition. I got my body fat down I did the prep pretty much all by myself and got it down to 4.3% from wherever it was. And that for my first show, I was, it's pretty amazing. But you learn every single time that you compete. And so you always think, man, if I just would, come in and maybe work on my back so I can have more of a V taper, or maybe I need to work on my upper chest, or, all those type of things. It's fun. And so every single competition, I would just get better and better and better. And I would work on different type of things that, I wanted to improve just for myself. I didn't do it for anybody else. It was just one of those things where, I always wanted to kind of, have that type of physique. When I was young growing up, I used to watch the Incredible Hawke, and that is what motivated me to start really working out. That was way back in the day when it was with Lou Ferrigno, and it was a TV series. So that kind of dates me and how old I am. So yeah, and then I kept competing, and then in 2015, I finally turned pro. After all the years of competing, I switched from bodybuilding to men's physique. And because men's physique is for, more of a smaller, more symmetrical, type physique. And as opposed to bodybuilding, those guys were crazy huge. And I would never be able to get that big. It's just, I wouldn't be able to do it. And I didn't want to either. I mean, you look at those guys, it's I didn't have that type of interest. I just wanted to, develop what I could, normally. So, and then from there, I just fell in love with competing. And then I started coaching competitors and, other people. So I coached competitors after a couple of years of myself, being in competing. And then from there, never looked back, and, been in the fitness industry now for 22 years, both personal training and gyms. Now I coach fit pros and help them build their online business. So it's still in that same realm. So I love it.
Anorexia and bulimia are very real problems that everybody's heard of, but not many people have heard of bigorexia. Have you actually come across that, where, the bodybuilding industry, it creates people that want to be bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets to a point where they just can't see how big they are, and they think they're small, and it becomes a huge problem. And it seems to be contagious as well. So if you hang around in a group of people that all think they're really small when they're big, it seems to be catching. Have you got any experience of this?
Yeah, it's so funny because as you compete and you work out, you just get used to seeing yourself every day. And, when I was, working out, people would always be like, man, you're huge. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just felt like a normal guy. And I just worked out because I love doing it. I just wanted to improve. But then I would, I was sponsored with Optimum Nutrition. So they would fly me to all the Olympias, all the Arnolds, all the big expos. And I would be with these guys, right? Because a lot of them were my teammates, and they were talking about how small they were and how small they felt and all that. And I'm like, this guy's huge. What is he even talking about? And I can see from a perspective, I never got, too far into it where I was had that type of dysmorphia, but I was around a lot of people that were, and I would hear them talking about that. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt almost like sorry for them because they weren't happy with themselves as a person. You know what I mean? And it just kind of became like a sickness for me. I just freaking love to do it. And I still love working out just because it makes me feel good. And, I want to look and feel my best. It's just part of the type of person I am. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of people that are like that. And I coached, competitors, and I still coach some competitors, and, even dealing with them, and they're like, man, I just feel so small. And these are like people that are like well over 200 pounds and like great physiques. And I'm just like, no, man, like, so, but, from a competition stage, I guess you have to take a look at, some people, the judges are going to grade somebody for bodybuilding, especially like on how massive these guys can get. And so they think if they're not massive like that, then they're small, like, cause they only put themselves around those type of people. So if you're only around like huge bodybuilders and that's like all you spend your time with, and you're like the smallest one of the bodybuilders, you're going to feel like you're small. Right. But if you're, around, normal people, then you're going to like probably feel like you're a little bit bigger. So a lot of it just depends upon, who you're around. They say that you're going to be most like the 5 people that you're around the most. So, if you're around 5 bigger guys than you and you're the smallest one, you're going to probably get bigger, but then you're going to always feel like you're smaller. So you got to try to catch up. So I think that's what happens too, is they're around each other, and that's kind of like their own inner circle.
For me, my experience is the opposite. So I can see when I do train, I can see the muscle coming, but there's still the fat there that has to go. So from a female point of view, it's not getting bigger, it's getting smaller. So we can see the muscle and the fat that's going. And that's really, really hard. And a lot of women suffer from this fat problem. So as a fitness instructor, as a Fit Pro mentor, if you like, what advice would you actually give females who want to strip down the fat, but are concentrating more on the fat element rather than the overall physique?
Yeah, and I think that goes for guys too, not just females, because that's the other end of the spectrum, where you have some guys that just concentrate on getting as big as possible, but then you also have some people that once you get to a certain body composition, you always feel like you're fat if you're not at that. And I even suffered from that as well. It wasn't so much like how big I can get, but it's like, if I wasn't lean, I felt like, oh my God, like I gotta start dieting. Like I wasn't 100% happy with my conditioning part. Right. And other people would say, no, you look freaking ripped. And I'm like, no, like you should see me when I'm, 3 or 4% body fat. That's what I identified myself with once you start to get in that mode. And yeah, there's a lot of females in there too. And if they don't have like the perfect bodies, and if they have like a little bit of, body fat on their triceps, or, the lower, especially after having kids, and they have the lower belly that doesn't, quite go back, they're like, freaking out. And, I think everybody has to be happy with who they are as a person, because how you look is not the determining factor on you as a person. And that's huge. And it took me a long time, as far as the body composition part, to be happy with how I am. You know what I mean? And there's always still that point of me that's like, man, I want to get a little bit leaner, and then there's always the like summertime is coming up, and, you want to feel comfortable in a tank top. But then, after you're around, people that love you and people that care about you, and you have like really true friends that care for you as a person, then you start to get less concerned about, the superficial type of things, as far as, how lean that you can get. But all those things are actually, they're real. And I think probably 90% of the population, if not more, actually suffer from something in one form or another of not feeling adequate. Even for the people that are like perfectly, you would look at them and think, oh my God, I want to have a body or a physique or a figure like that person. To them, in their head, they're thinking like, my gosh, I need to get leaner. I need to get, into better shape, because they're so used to how they can ultimately be on the stage. But that's not something that's healthy for long term, like for, 365 days, a year, because the condition that you get into onto the stage, a lot of it is like, you have to, you deplete the water, and then you do carb loads, and you do different things to like really make you look the best on stage. And you have your tanning and you have your sheen. And, it's like a small window that you actually look like that. Like, it might be a certain number of like days that you look incredible, or it could even be hours. Like, literally the timing when you're doing all your water and everything like that can literally be like, you have like the ideal physique that you're looking for a number of hours. And then you hear about people spilling over from having too much carbs, and it gives them a different type of look, even though to the untrained eye, they look freaking incredible. But to a trained eye, you can see that there's definitely a difference, inside there. So, a lot of things in there, but ultimately we have to be happy with ourselves, who we are, and we need to surround ourselves with the right type of people that will support us for who we are from the inside, not just the outside.
And I think one of the problems that we face today is there's too much media injection, too many idealistic visions of what we should look like. And that's one thing I like about Instagram, is it shows you the before and after, This is what I look like. This is what I look like now. This is a filter. This is not a filter. And I think people are starting to realize now that what you see isn't real. And like you've just said with the bodybuilders and competitions, it's a matter of hours to days, not weeks, that they look that amazing. And I have professional bodybuilder friends who you never know with them walking down the street that they're professional bodybuilders. In fact, you think, she needs to lose a few pounds. But it's the muscle that they're carrying underneath the surface layer that makes them look that big. But they suffer from that, I've got to lose an extra 2 pounds. My water content's not right. I need to not drink for 8 hours. And it can be quite damaging physically as well. So what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about embarking on a bodybuilding journey for competition purposes?
Yeah, you just have to know that ultimately this is going to be, the look that you get on stage is obviously going to be temporary, and you have to train your mind for that too. And you have to train your mind. This is something that I didn't hear from anybody, and I had to suffer from it the hard way, is that when you're done with the competition as well, you need to think about this, is how are you going to eat? Because it's going to be so hard to keep up with the amount of cardio, the amount of training, the nutrition and everything like that to like maintain that type of look. It's literally typically not going to be something that's going to be sustainable. And I learned the hard way, and I binged like after my first couple shows, because as soon as I started to have like sugar, like regular foods, I couldn't stop eating. And it was like a sickness that I had. And I ate so much that I felt like I had to go to the hospital. Like my stomach was distended after a show. Because I remember going to like an Italian restaurant the night of after my competition, and just to like celebrate. And, I was like, oh my God, I can eat anything now. And after like 16 weeks or 20 weeks of like eating so few calories and doing 2 hours of cardio a day and doing your weight training and only eating chicken and, fish and broccoli and, quinoa and some yam sometimes, and then you're like, oh my gosh. And I would have raviolis, and I would have ice cream, and I would have pizookies, like all these different type of desserts and pizza and lasagna. And I was like, oh my, and I just could not stop eating. So one thing you have to think about is, are you doing this to, be happy with yourself? Are you doing it for, a particular end goal? Is this something that you want to be sustainable? Is it just like, something like to check off your bucket list? Think about really why you're competing. Okay. Cause sometimes it may not be for the same reason that you think. And then also when you're done with your competition is you have to like do what's called reverse dieting. Like, and that's where it's like, just slowly kind of go back to increasing your calories, and don't just like go from one extreme to like eating anything that you want. I mean, like seriously, the first couple of times I had so much water retention, my eyes were puffy, my ankles looked like as big as my thighs. Like I had so much edema, which is like water retention and, carb spillage and things in there. And I just felt like crap. And then you have where you can't stop eating for like 2 weeks. It was just like nonstop. I couldn't stop like with my eating and my cravings. And then you go into that, oh my God, I need to like diet again. And I can't wait to do another show so I can lean out. And it was like this cycle that would happen over and over again, especially like in the off season when you would get big, and you wouldn't be doing as much cardio. So then you would like mentally, you would feel like, oh my gosh, I'm inadequate. I feel, completely fat. That's how I felt. I was like, man, I felt fat when really I wasn't really that fat, but I just compared to, walking around 3% where I just felt amazing, like with the tank top. And this is like years and years ago before, like mentally I was able to kind of make some changes. But that's the one thing I would say to anybody who's starting the journey is just like mentally prepare and think about every single step in the equation. So, when you're coming down is perfectly cool. Like, and try to do this like the more gradual way and test it out like for, a few weeks of, really cleaning out, your foods. And, I would help people with different stages, right? So the first stage is typically going to be like, keep your calories up, but now we're going to clean out most of the junk. So don't eat any of the junk. I want you just to eat clean foods and so forth. So they would do like a kitchen cleanup kind of thing, but keeping the calories up. So they would get used to eating cleaner foods. So they wouldn't be having all the processed foods and all that stuff. And then from there, then there would be like, the next step would be like, okay, now you feel good, and everything's going, the calories are up. Now let's taper down the calories a little bit so we can increase the fat loss. And then you would get into like usually right around 8 or 9 weeks into some carb cycling where you can start to cycle. So that way the metabolism, doesn't start to adapt and really slow down. So like every third or fourth day, you can do a higher carb, and then usually the last month is kind of like dependent upon the person. So if they have a lot of body fat that they still need to get down for a stage, then it's a little bit more drastic. But, if you do it correctly and the person's adhering to everything, usually they just kind of slide right in, and then, it's not too strenuous. So I would always say, give yourself some extra time too, for your first competition. Some people think, oh man, it's, I can do this in 8 weeks, no problem. Like, no, you can't. Like, if you want to really have, an amazing physique, then, it's always better to give yourself more time in the beginning, because then you can like cruise into it if you're, if you're conditioned. But if you're playing catch up and it's the last 4 weeks and you're like, holy cow, like I have so much more to do, it's going to be hard. Cause then it's literally the only thing you can do is like cut your calories and increase your activity, and you're just going to like grind yourself out. And I had to do that too. So, work with a coach, work with a mentor, have somebody experienced who's actually, helped competitors before, because if you try to do it all on your own, like I did, you're going to end up making some serious, heartaches on yourself. Like me, it was just like, you do the wrong things. You don't know about, the carb cycling or anything else. And I was literally, when I first started doing it, like doing way too much cardio and, cutting my calories down way too much. And I lost so much muscle and things in the process, but then you start to get the hang of everything. So work with a coach in the beginning as a drawn out answer for you.
That's great advice, because a lot of people think, oh, you're a professional fitness instructor, you should know what you're doing. It's not that simple, is it? Everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs more than one coach, whether it's a fitness coach, a health coach, a finance coach, a performance coach. We all need coaches in order to keep us on track, because we can't actually see what we're doing. So we might think that our stance is correct or the way we're lifting is correct, but it's probably not. It might just be a tilt of the elbow or a straightening of the back or something. So having that coach there is a really, really important step, especially when you're trying to do something so drastic. Now, you built your amazing fitness physique on the back of animal protein. And I invited you to take a 30-day plant-based challenge, which you gladly accepted. Can you tell us a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I tried going vegan after watching the movie The Game Changers, right? So I think it's called Game Changers. Yeah. That movie. And this was like, maybe a year ago. And so I went into, one of those healthy stores and I got a bunch of like, vegan products. And at the first time I did it, I sustained it for, how long was it? Maybe a week or two. And then, I kind of went off. But I started to think about really the reasons why now that, I would want to do something like this. So then I was like, yeah, let me give it a shot. And as I started doing this, the major adjustment was getting enough protein in, because I love having protein, and, me being, super into the fitness industry and, working out and things, I wanted to make sure that I did. So that was the biggest struggle. But then what I did was I ordered a bunch of different, like, of the protein powders that I can always add in there if like my food just didn't have enough, protein. And I was like, man, these vegan protein powders are actually pretty freaking good, right? They have like all these, chocolates and vanillas and all these things too. And they have like a really nice consistency. And the biggest thing that I noticed was I started having so much more energy, like right off the bat. I think after a few days, I think it was like 2 or 3 days, I started waking up at 4 a.m. And I have never been like that early where I just wake up at 4 a.m, like ready to tackle the day. So it gave me like so much more mental clarity. Even this morning, I woke up at 2 a.m. I literally had to like try to make myself go back to sleep. And yeah, my energy, my mental clarity, has been improved so much. And I was expecting like, man, I'll probably end up losing some muscle, some strength, some different things in there. I haven't lost anything. I feel amazing. My workouts are fantastic. Out here, there was the lockdown. I just started working out at the gym for the first time in 13 months. And even my workout partner was like, man, look at freaking good. Like, after 13 months. And yeah, I mean, there's always going to be that adjustment when you go to anything new, but then you have to think about kind of why you're doing it. And I'm a huge animal lover too. I've always had cats, and, I've had, fish tanks. At one time I had, I think it was like 8 fish tanks when I was like, just kind of, I had my own apartment. I had a roommate, and we would go, this was like a long time ago, and we would go to garage sales and find, oh, there's a fish tank, let's buy it, and then we had fish tanks like all over the apartment. And then I had like a aquarium with like, it was half land, half water, and all different type of stuff. So I literally love animals. And so you think about that too. And then you see some of those sad videos on what they have to do to get, the animals, and how they raise them in like super bad ways. It made it more of an easier choice for me. And then also, so much, there's so many more foods now that it just makes it easier to like, hey, if you really want to make this type of a lifestyle, you can do it. Like there's like literally any type of food almost like made vegan style, especially if you go to, some of the healthier, like more natural grocery stores and things too. So it does cost, a little bit more, but, that's perfectly fine when you take into consideration, what you're doing it for, and then also for your health as well. And when you take the difference in how you feel with those type of, like meat products and things like that, and you don't realize that you're feeling tired and sluggish until you don't have that tired and sluggish feeling. I mean, I still always, before that, I felt good, but it's like my energy just like doubled, and it's like, wow, it was pretty crazy. So, yeah, been a big step. I'm actually still having my vegan protein powder and everything like this. And I think now it's been like over 2 months, 3 months, something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well done. So somebody's turned you into Roadrunner.
Yeah. So it's been some changes, and now, my wife is even on board with everything too. We just have like vegan protein powder in the house. We don't even have like the other proteins or anything anymore. And so it's nice. And I got some like protein pastas and different type of things in there, carbonara, all different stuff. So you can really make some nice foods in there too.
That's amazing that your family are on board as well. So There was a study by Moon et al. That said that whey protein is not the god of all proteins, of all protein powders, should I say, but actually rice powder equalizes the whey powder because it's fortified in the lab. Now, some of the better protein powders out there that are vegan are made from peas. Some are made from soya, but they taste a bit chalky, but some are made from peas. What sort of protein powder have you used to help you maintain your physique?
Yeah, I've been using mostly pea protein. So there's different pea proteins out there. One of them I have is a blend. Like I use one brand, it's called Vega. And there's another one called Orgain that I've been using. I think one of them is like a blend of like, I think rice protein, pea protein, and has some other ones. And I've been trying like different ones and different flavors and trying to get some different combos in there just to test out some different plant-based proteins. But yeah, a lot of them are the pea protein. I haven't been having, too much of the soy. It's mostly been the pea. And then there's like a rice protein in there too. And yeah, and I was actually just on Amazon yesterday. I just ordered another 5-pound tub because I go through it so fast of the pea protein, but I was looking at the rice protein too. And so I'll actually take a deeper look into that too. So
I use a protein shake by Protein Works, and it's really, really nice, but they have over 100 different flavors. And I made the mistake of ordering Millionaire Shortbread. Can you imagine? Millionaire Shortbread in a shake. It's like, how much protein do I need a day? Maybe not that much. I have to have a protein shake every time I need a drink. But the protein shakes are really nice, and they've come on a long way since 10, 20 years ago, where it was just awful. And obviously the protein in plant-based protein shakes is far superior because it's reusable protein, which means that the body doesn't have to break it down and convert it into something else. It can just use it. So one of the tips I used to give people, and I used to do myself, was have a protein shake before bed, because then your body can use it to repair with. I mean, that's not necessarily true with the animal one, but definitely with the plant-based one. Do you have any tips, protein shake-wise, protein-wise, for the viewers at home?
Yeah, so I always do a protein shake. Man, I'm having about at least, just so you know, I'm having at least 3 protein shakes a day just to get all my protein intake in there now. So I'm having always one for breakfast, right? So I'll have, it just depends. Like if my meal doesn't have enough protein in there, and I use like Ezekiel breads, and there's some other ones that actually have a high, pretty high protein content in there, like some low carb breads. And then I'll always do it like right before bed, because I get hungry in the middle of the night if I don't have something like right before I go to bed. It's just like my stomach starts to gargle, and it wakes me up because of my hunger, because my appetite or my metabolism is going so fast from like the working out and everything too. So always first thing to break the fast, right, is always good to kind of knock that out. Unless you're doing intermittent fasting, that's a whole different ball game. But if you're not, then break the fast with a nice protein source in the morning. Post workout is going to be one of the best times to also get a really good protein source in, because you're going to want to have the essential amino acids to help out with the recovery of the breakdown of the muscle tissue, right? So, working out itself is not making you big. It's actually the repair process that's, helping you with building your muscle tissue. So, right after training, I always like to have, a good source of protein to just start that recovery process as soon as possible. And also your body, sometimes I feel like mine is like a sponge right after working out. It's like I can, utilize a lot more nutrients, post workout. There's been studies on both sides. Some studies say, there's that anabolic window right after working out. And other studies say, well, it's not as important as it is. So it just depends upon which study you go with. Right. But, and then before bed. So those are like the 3 times where it's like, boom, I'm always going to make sure that I have an adequate, protein source in there. And then obviously, throughout the day is going to be kind of like hit and miss. So that way, if I'm having, something, it's not going to be as big of a difference, because I work out in the middle of the day. So I'm at least getting my breakfast, midday, and then evening high protein sources in there. And then I sprinkle some things in there, throughout the day. Man, you can make some amazing smoothies with this pea protein. So, I like to do like a peanut butter and banana, and then a scoop of the protein. And then you can go with like some almond milk in there, throw some ice cubes, blend it up. Another really delicious one is bananas, strawberries, and blueberries. Amazing. And then if you like a little bit more of the berry mix, there's that. And you can throw in some kale, and you don't really taste the kale as much, or spinach, right? And it does give it the green effect in there, but you get a lot of really good nutrients in there too. Then you can always throw in some chia seeds or some flax seeds and get some, really healthy fats and, and antioxidants and things in there too, and some more fiber. You can throw in some wheat germ. Like, man, the possibilities are endless. That's why I love making smoothies. I have one of those ninja blenders. And so it's just like, throw some good stuff in there. And my daughters actually love when I make the smoothies. So that's another one of their favorites that they love, is always like, Daddy, make me a protein smoothie. So
you just touched on intermittent fasting. How would you get your protein intake on an intermittent fast when you're eating mainly in the afternoon / evening?
Yeah, then you just have to like stock up and have higher protein sources. Personally, myself, what I like to do is I like to space out my protein. So I'm getting more of like not a huge amount all at one time, but rather like, 5, adequate protein sources. So I feel like my body can utilize more of that protein, because if you just give it all at once, your body can only assimilate so much protein at one time. Right. And, a lot of people think, hey, if it's protein, then it won't turn into fat, right? But protein, just like any other macronutrient, can end up turning into fat if you have too much of it, right? Yeah. But then there's different things also, because protein is, going to have a higher metabolic effect when you actually ingest it as well, right? It's the highest as far as the macronutrients. Macros are your carbs, proteins, and fats. So when you ingest protein, it actually takes more calories than any other macronutrient to actually utilize that and digest it, break it down, which is good, because then you actually can, burn more body fat and those type of things in there too.
You have transitioned from being a pro athlete to being a fitness trainer, a general manager in a gym, a big gym, I believe. I don't live in America, so I don't know the brand of the gym. Maybe you can explain that in a second. But now you teach fitness instructors, fitness professionals, how to run their own business.
Yeah. So for over 2 decades, I worked in the corporate gym. So I worked in some of the really big ones. Started off back in, this is going to date me a little bit, but 1999 is when I first started working as a personal trainer. It was with 24 Hour Fitness, which is like one of the biggest, brand names in the fitness chain. And I started off as a trainer. And then within like I set a record, like within 3 months of being there as like sales records and things. And then, obviously they promoted me to like a fitness manager, within like 7 months. And then I ran one of the bigger, clubs in San Diego, the whole fitness departments. And, then at one of those corporate gyms, you learn how to do systems and like get really good at the systems. You get really good at, the training, the development, how to be able to scale, how to build a team, like the things, the questions, the sales aspect. And then they would have you move to, other locations. Like if there's a club that's not doing as well, they would put me in that one, and then I would build that one up. And then there's always the pre-sales of the new club. So you would go in there and, help them get the revenue generated for those new clubs. After a while, I started to realize that although I loved fitness, when you work for a corporate gym, it's like they control everything that you do, and you start to lose touch with actually the impact of the people. And I loved, being able to help. That's why I got started in the fitness industry. When you get to that type of level, you kind of they try to pull you away from that. And I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. And so I started actually coaching online, because I was, in the magazines and in the covers and things. And so I had a lot of people reach out like, hey, Tobias, can you coach me online? Can you do my menu plan? Can you do my workouts? And I started doing, yeah, I can do that. And I started to do that. And in the very beginning, I started doing it for free, right? I was like, yeah, no problem. And then after a while, I was like, man, I got to start charging for this. This is taking up some time. And so I started, building a website and building out, my clientele. And then I got, more clientele. But then, there came to a point where I wanted to hire a mentor to help me with that part too. So then I hired a mentor to help me with my online coaching. And I hired several mentors actually. And then my business started really taking off. And then I was still working in the gym, but working part-time online, I was making more than I was managing multiple locations at a corporate gym. So eventually what I ended up doing is leaving the corporate gym and just doing my whole online coaching. And then the business started really taking off. And it was a little over a year ago when I actually connected with a friend of mine that we used to both manage, different gyms together. And he's like, man, I'm doing business coaching, helping fit pros build their business now. Man, it's freaking amazing. He started telling me about everything that he's doing, the impact he's having with the trainers and the coaches. And I never wanted to do that at first. I got asked by a lot of personal trainers like, hey, can you mentor me? Can you help me build out my business? And I was like, well, I'm not really doing that. I just want to focus on, the fitness coaching at this point. But then I started clicking. I was like, I would love to actually do that, because that's what I did, working for all these, corporate gyms, is I was helping the fit pros and building, their business up in a gym setting. And now that I have the skills to be able to do the online version, I was like, this is kind of a no-brainer. It's like the natural progression, that I would go to. So, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I actually partnered up with him. Since then I actually, bought him out, and now I own the business outright myself. And now I'm helping fit pros basically explode and build their online business. And it's so rewarding because I'm able to now be in touch with the people that I love to work with and be able to help and be able to see them transform, their lives, and now get, their freedom back as far as the time, not having to spend 12 hours at a gym anymore and have to worry about cancellations and no-shows, and make a lot more money, and then get, obviously get their time back and be able to work from wherever they want to. Like they can literally pack up, go on vacation, go to the beach, go to Hawaii, whatever you want, bring your laptop, get your work done, and boom. And, obviously them being able to create their own legacy and build their own business has been truly rewarding to watch, because I got a chance to do that myself. So it's been fantastic.
If you're going to give a fitness instructor advice for how to progress their business further, how to get more customers, how to get more leads, how to go from the level they're at to the next level, what would your number one takeaway be?
Yeah, obviously the first thing I would suggest is look at somebody who's been successful and emulate what they are doing. Because if you just try to go I don't know what to do, but I'm just going to do this. That's what I started doing in the beginning, and I got some traction, but it literally took me years of trying to figure things out and making mistakes. And until I started working with somebody and they're like, this is the way, the blueprint, then that's when it just literally took off. So find somebody that's been doing, who's successful at doing what you want to do, and emulate the same steps that they're doing. So the first thing that you have to do, which is different from in-person versus online, is in person, you're going to take any type of person that comes to you, right? As far as a personal trainer. So you're going to work with somebody that wants fat loss, somebody that wants to gain muscle. It might be somebody who's, older, just wants to move better, functional people, all those different types of people, athletes. You're going to try to take them all, right? In online, it's completely opposite. If you try to have your branding where you help anybody with anything, do anything, you get lost in the sea and you literally attract nobody. And that was my problem in the beginning. I was like, man, I can help so many different people. This is amazing. But then nobody really, started to come because my marketing was so broad. So you have to really narrow down, and you have to find what's called your avatar, your ideal type of client. And you want to speak directly to them. That's the first step that you need to do before anything, is find out who's your dream client. Where do they hang out? What are their hobbies? Because this is important things, because then you can go to those places where they're at, online, and you can interact and you can find those type of people, right? Because that's going to be super important, whether it's Facebook groups or whether it's hashtags. So that way it's not, bland. And then when you market specifically to the pain points that they have, then they're going to start to see you as the go-to person and the authority, right? But you have to establish find out what are their pain points first off. What are their biggest struggles? Or is it maybe a female that, had 2 kids and she gained 50 pounds and now, she feels terrible about herself, and it's affecting her marriage. It's affecting her mental sanity. She wakes up in the morning and she starts to cry. Like, you got to think about really what they're going through in their heads. And until you really do that, you can't address like the pain points in the goals correctly. So that's going to be, the first thing is obviously really define your avatar, then build yourself as the authority in the space. Like, that's going to be the next thing. Like, you got to become the go-to person that's going to solve that person's problem. Like, find out what their problem is and then become that authority figure in there, and then just post on those type of things, on overcoming the problems that they're facing. And then obviously make sure you have a content strategy in place. So your social media has to be, really dialed in. You want to create an offer that's different from every other fitness coach out there. Because if you try to be like, hey, I help out with, just workouts and nutrition, like, hey, everybody does that. Anybody can go on to bodybuilding.com, download some workouts and nutrition. Like, how are you going to be different from all the other people? So you want to create a signature offer that's going to like really, stand out in there. So those are like some of the first things that you want to do to create. And then from there, it's obviously there's going to be a lot more steps.
So I know where to find you because I'm in your Facebook group and I follow you on Instagram, but where can the viewers at home reach you if they want to reach out to you and gain some of your knowledge and experience and your support? Where can they find you?
So my Facebook group is the Online Fit Pro community. So you can join the group. You can go to my website is tntfitprocoaching.com. Put the www in front of that. And on Instagram, it's Tobias Young and then the number 1. And then Facebook, it's Tobias Young. Those are like the main social media platforms that I'm on. That'll be the easiest. But yeah, I would love to hear from you. If you want to shoot me an email, you can shoot me an email to tobias@tntfitprocoaching.com.
That's great, Tobias. Thanks for being here today. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we leave?
As far as anything, I would say don't be scared to fail. Like, that's really what holds most people back, is they're like, well, what if I'm not successful? What if? Yeah. If you're paralyzed by your fear, you're never going to be successful. So you have to just go out there and do it and make mistakes. Don't be scared to fail. Don't be scared to make mistakes, because those are going to happen. Get on video. Don't be scared to be on video, things like that. Everybody's scared in the very beginning, but that's how you're going to really be able to resonate with your ideal audience. Your videos may suck in the beginning, and that's perfectly fine. They're going to get better with time. It's just like, dribbling a basketball for the first time, or dribbling with your non-dominant hand. The first time you do it, you're like trying to like dribble the basketball. And then what happens after you've been practicing, you're like, you become good, right? So, just like any NFL athlete, NBA athlete, they always started off, doing practice for the very first time, and they just practiced until they got better and better and better. And that's the main thing. And hey, if you need help with anything, reach out. There's always going to be people there to help you out. If you need, any advice, you can reach out to me. I'm perfectly cool with that. Or you can go to somebody that is doing really well with what you want to accomplish and reach out to them and see what they're doing. And in the beginning, just start emulating, the type of things that you're seeing them doing. And that's going to be the first step. But don't be scared, because if you're scared to get started, then you're not going to be able to help those people. And then you're not helping yourself at all too. So I guess I'll end with that.
Great advice, Tobias. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us here today, and good luck with your plant-based journey. And thank you for converting your family too. Hopefully you'll be able to convert some of your friends as well. The eat nice way, not the hard sell way, obviously.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure in here, and thank you for like reigniting my fire on getting that plant protein in there.
Brilliant. Thank you.